Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast with Benji Naesen. This is our recap of Stage 3 of Paris-Nice 2021, the TT Day. We've had a couple of, let's be honest, sleepy days in Stages 1 and 2, definitely GC-wise. And this was where we knew there were going to be GC gaps. 14-kilometre course from Gien to Gien, a loop around. 102 meters elevation gain. I was like, oh, they should average over 50 k's an hour. I was wrong. I think they averaged, the winner averaged just under 50 k's an hour. The road surface was really bad, and there was quite a few punchy climbs. The climb to the finish was harder than it looked on the profile, and definitely, it definitely slowed that average down below 50 k's an hour. Want to remind you, it's already Wednesday, 10th of March here, because I'm in the early hours of the morning. But on Wednesday, tomorrow in Europe and America, the Healthy Aging Tour starts. It's being broadcast live, I understand, by Eurosport and GCN. Pretty stacked field, women's stage race. Yes, it's a 2-1, but it's basically got all the World Tour top level teams. So I would ignore that designation and get behind Drops Le Col. Le Col have come on this year as a title sponsor of Drops Le Col. Le Col are the sponsor of our podcast. We obviously shouted out their kit when they announced it the other day. Maybe check in on Drops Le Col, see how they're going tomorrow. Maybe pick out a rider that you think could do well. And it'd be interesting if you want to follow them along with us. Maybe if you want an underdog team, because it's easy to root for SD Works. So I like to have like a strong team and then a bit of a plucky underdog team as well. They're at Conti level, Drops Le Col, and hoping to move up to World Tour level in the future. But this TT, Benji, remind us, because I always lie about the picks and then say I picked this guy to win when I didn't. What did we say was going to happen in this TT before we read out the results?
You said that Bissiger would do well, and you also said
actually?
that Cavagna would do horrible. We
Okay.
both agreed that Roglič would do relatively well.
Yeah.
And I think I said that Campenaerts would do really well, but then he, we'll talk about it in a second, what he did and why he did what he did. But those were the real call-outs, I think. Søren Kragh was one of the names that was up there as well.
We said he was top 5. We said he was top 5 lock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matthews as well was also a name that we obviously named because he obviously had the yellow jersey, perhaps still has. We don't know yet. But he was one of the guys that we expected something from, knowing that he can time trial, knowing that he wanted to get in that yellow jersey. He likely wanted to keep it for this time trial as well. So a bit of a challenge for him as well. Those were the names I think we named, and we were also kind of, in doubt about a few people. Vlasov, Gegenhardt, when it comes to their time trials regarding today. And we'll see if that panned out.
Okay, so this is how we do time trials, because it's all reverse GC order. We just read out the results, and then we get to the talking points. So reminder that Michael Matthews was in the yellow jersey with a 14-second lead on the majority of the field, sort of the contenders for the stage, except for Dennis, who was like 3 minutes back. He was like 14 seconds ahead of, Roglič, Cavagna, etc. And then about 10 seconds or so, maybe 6 seconds ahead of Mads Pedersen, who was 4 seconds ahead of those other riders on 14 seconds. But the results today, the big young man who I've been hyping up for a little bit, Stefan Bissiger, the Swiss rider for EF Education Nippo, wearing the duck. No, not the duck. He's wearing the POC Tempo helmet, but it would have gone faster if they had the duck painting on it. He won this ITT, 49.184 kilometer an hour average. I think 0.8 of a second ahead of Remy Cavagna. So I was right with Bissiger doing well. I was very wrong about counting out Cavagna. Benji set me straight on that yesterday. He was basically the same time as Bissiger, but he just sat up before the line. I think it cost him the stage, Benji. Roglič third. Rogler is back, baby. Let's go. There's something about seeing Primoz in the TT suit, just thick Primoz. I don't know. It just makes me feel like cycling's back. And he came third, 6 seconds behind Bissiger. I said the other day on the preview, I was like, can he really dive back into that 2018 20-minute TT level again? Well, he showed he can. But I didn't think the gap would be too big between him and Schachmann. And it wasn't too big, bigger than I expected though. 16 seconds to Schachmann, who was 13th, 22 seconds back, but back to 4th. Brandon McNulty, the American, 9 seconds behind Bissiger, 3 seconds behind Roglič. Lovely time for McNulty. We knew he could TT. It's how he's going to go on stage 7 that I'm really interested in. Actually, the mountaintop finish. Kra Anderson, 5th, still a nice time, 10 seconds back. Rowan Dennis, 6th, 13 seconds behind Bissiger. He's in the hot seat for quite a while. But yeah, 6th, we'll talk about that in a second. Laporte, 7th, Benji. Dylan Van Baarle, 8th. Lampard, 9th. Bevan, 10th. Very small second gaps between all of these. Stefan Kruijswijk, 20th. Now I'm going to just read out some of the GC people, relevant GC people. Vlasov, 16th. 22 seconds back behind Bissiger. 16 seconds behind Roglič. Same time as Schachmann. I'm staggered by it. That's crazy. Matthews lost the yellow jersey to Bissiger. He lost 23 seconds to him. He needed to finish 14 seconds or less after Bissiger's time. So Bissiger goes into the yellow jersey. And now some of the GC issues. Geoghegan Hart, I think, came 41st, 44 seconds back on Bissiger, 38 seconds behind Roglič. Who else had a bad TT from the GC contenders, Benji?
Greipel.
Yes, Greipel. Yeah, I mean, he took all those intermediate sprints yesterday, and then he gave them back today in the TT. Hindley. Hindley was bad. A minute and 2 behind on a 14 KITT, 71st. So that's the same time as Gilbert, who legit wasn't trying. He was like not wearing. He was wearing like normal socks. I think. Was he even wearing a skin suit? So that wasn't great. But here, let's get into some of these talking points, Benji. The TT specialists. Campenaerts and Dennis. Dennis set a respectable time, and it's early season. Maybe he's had different priorities. But coming 6th, and then Campenaerts coming 30th, 32 seconds back. I thought Campenaerts was going to come 2nd, Benji. I picked Dennis for the stage win in my preview. You thought Campenaerts would do well as well. I don't think anyone thought he would come 30th. What is going on?
Well, yesterday we made that call about Campenaerts being other in time trial, and then I read an article not even 15 to 20 minutes after we did our recording session that he feels like the time trial list in him is not really there at the moment, and that he's purely focusing on the transformation towards a classic rider. We've seen that in Kuurne because we saw him. No, it was Le Samyn, I think, where we saw him attack multiple times. I think in Kuurne as well once. In one of the last kilometers, he tried something at the front of the peloton. So he's active in those classics races. He's showing that he's doing that transformation, but I still kind of expected him up here. So I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm disappointed. I think I am. But I also, if he wants to transform the rider type he is, I'm also not really against that. I've been promoting him to do more than time trial for multiple years. So can't really go back on that now. But either way, disappointing, I guess, for everybody that expected something from him. I expected stuff from him until I read that article, and I was like, that pick was a bad one. When it comes to Dennis, I don't know. I feel like I've said this multiple times. I think 3 to 4 years ago, we had that year that Dennis was strong consistently in time trials. But ever since then, he's becoming less and less consistent in time trials, and I think I did not expect him to win this because of that reason. I didn't expect him to. I perhaps did expect him to win top 5 because it's just not really the kind of thing that I see Dennis not being decent at a time trial. But I expected him higher. I can't say much more than that. But I also didn't expect him to win, so it's not the biggest surprise to me personally, honestly.
He said he did 20 watts more than his target power in the
Must have
hot
been
seat
under reading
interview.
then.
Yeah, I mean, you mean overreading?
Yeah.
I never understand the overreading, underreading thing. But I don't know what's gone on there. Maybe it's still not. He still hasn't won with Ineos. I know Ganna exists, and he's doing a lot of work in the Giro, not in the time trials. But maybe it's an equipment thing at Ineos as well. Apparently, I've been told by people on the our Peloton Discord, they've been tracking it. The Ineos were wearing like an aero base layer last year, Benji, and I'm not like an equipment geek at all, but hey, I like conspiracy theories and things like that. So last year, all the TTs apparently Ineos wore these aero base layers. I don't know the science behind wearing an aero base layer. Maybe it makes everything thicker. I don't know. And they haven't been wearing them this year. And Gegenhardt wasn't wearing it today. So maybe that's, and Ganna, we've got to be honest, Ganna did not beat Bissiger by as much as we expected in UAE either. So on a TT that suited him down to the ground.
Are you
So
telling me that the difference between Ganna at God level and Ganna at super good level is a base layer?
I'm saying that I don't know. Maybe
Yeah, it's
Bissiger.
true because like the difference between Roglič at top level and at horrible level is a helmet. So
If it's 0.5% off your time, that's actually a lot of seconds. But I still think Ganna's going to win the Tirreno TT. Well, maybe okay. If Ganna doesn't win the Tirreno TT, someone needs to clip this part of the podcast, and if Wout van Aert beats him, and we'll say it's because of the base layer changeover. So I don't know why they're not wearing it anymore. Maybe it's been banned secretly. So on the next talking point, Gegenhardt, closely related to that. I didn't expect him to beat Roglič. I expected him to lose 25 seconds to Roglič.
yeah,
38 seconds, Benji. That's a lot of time, and GC is pretty much done for him in my view.
it's the base layer, you know. All joking aside, I think that it's not necessarily completely over. We know that in these kind of stage races that you can have one rider that gets a bit of a clear in the last 2 kilometers of a climb, and then suddenly everybody behind starts panicking and can't close it down. But the competition is Roglic. Roglic won't have that happen. Roglic won't fail here, I think, in Paris. So for me, I think it's almost a dead set lock at this point that Roglic is taking this Paris home. You said it even before Paris started. If he doesn't crash, if he doesn't have bad luck, I think it's almost a lock. But it could still be very interesting to see the battle behind. Are we saying already that Roglic is winning this Paris on day 3?
Well, no, like it's playing out exact. This is
Yeah.
the exact reason why he was such a short favorite, because now he's done. Roglic has got this. Where is he on GC compared to the other guys? I don't know. He's 3 seconds ahead of McNulty. He's 16 ahead of Schachmann and Vlasov, and like 38 ahead of Gegenhardt and co. The only reason he lost the Tour de France, by the way, pretty much the only race he lost last year was because of a last day ITT craziness. That's not happening, obviously, in Paris unless they convert the Nice stage in stage 8 to a time trial, and he's
Invite
probably still
Pogacar.
gain more time. And insert Pogacar and Ganna, and they do a team time trial. So this is setting up perfectly. Look at the team they have. Benji Kruiswijk looks on good form. Nice time from him as well. I think, where did Kruiswijk come, Benji? You were pretty happy with
11th.
it. 14 seconds behind Roglic. They got Bennett, who looked fine again after his hard crash yesterday, and I looked all right. And then Sam Ehrman. So they got a strong team to control, and now Roglic has got a lead, and they got a mountaintop finish that suits Roglic that he's been dominating. It's I don't know. I don't know what to do. What would you do? Would you be pretty disconsolate if you were the other GC riders, or if you're in the Ineos camp today?
I don't know. I don't think that Gegenhardt has
38
the ability
seconds,
of
Benji.
beating Roglic anyway. So I, I think that obviously they're gonna panic Ineos about this GC. They were already kind of in a bad mode since Port was unfortunately abandoning this race. I got to remind you of it. Just have to. The tears are coming out of those eyes. I can see it. I can hear it. Anyway, yeah, on paper, Richie Porte would have been the ideal candidate for them to go for GC with this time trial, with the climb that is coming at the end. On paper, he'd be able to compete with Roglic relatively. But with Gegenhardt, that's just not the case, in my opinion. I don't think that's a viable option here. And he will get close likely, but I don't see him beating Roglic, not Pogacar. That's the wrong race. So I also don't necessarily think that Gegenhardt is the biggest competitor of Roglic at this point. I think that
Yeah, who is
Vlasov
it?
might
Is it
be.
Schachmann or Vlasov?
I think Vlasov, and I would
I
not
think so too.
I would not underestimate McNulty's top 5 options here.
Oh, no, obviously. Like, McNulty, top 5. I'd be surprised if he didn't come top 5. I
He
think he
could beat
will...
Geoghegan Hart in GC.
I think he'll lose time on stage 7. I think the Cherubler stage suits him on the hard medium mountain stage. But he'll probably lose time on the mountaintop finish if they hit it hard. But it's a lot of time. It's a lot of time to make up, especially when you get a big draft on that climb. And he's in good form. Vlasov, I think he's the threat, Benji. I think if you're Roglič, you would have been counting on 40 seconds ahead of Vlasov. And Vlasov must have good legs. Like, he attacked, was it stage 1 or 2? I'm not sure if we mentioned it. Randomly on the flat with
Yeah.
Luis Leon Sanchez. We're like, is that Vlasov? Because he looks very distinctive frame. He must be feeling himself. And he didn't have a good Provence where he was good last year. Maybe he's shaping up nicely here, and I can't wait to see whether he attacks. He will attack. He's an aggressive guy. He'll attack on the medium mountain, stage to Shrub, or
And
um, stage 7.
he's also got Yoni Zagiri, who's also up there in GC. I think
Yes,
he's 12th in GC now, Zagiri, ahead of Vlasov by 1 second. So that's a good duo, a strong duo. We know that Izagiri is stronger in these 1 week races, definitely at the start of the season in like
for
February,
sure.
March, with even April with like Catalonia and Basque Country is usually pretty damn strong.
Yeah.
So Paris is leaning into that. Wouldn't surprise me if Jonas Aguirre is also very strong for Astana. So that duo is going to be relentless, but obviously that's the same thing with Roglič and Kruijswijk. So it's duo versus duo here, I think, for the real GC. I think the rest will have to come from far to compete with these two.
Astana have got Lutsenko, Luis Leon Sanchez in good form, Jonas Aguirre and Vlasov. I'm telling you, they
And
are
Freile.
this race. Van Freile. This race may not go anywhere, but if there's a cold and wet day, the last Nice medium mountain day that's hard to control, a super cold or wet day, that is how I think Roglič can lose this race. Jumbo Visma, we saw in the Vuelta last year on that cold, wet day where he lost time, Benji, and Kuss had to sacrifice himself. We never really found out what happened there. And I think, I think Vlasov will, that's their best chance of winning. But some other talking points from this time trial, apart from Roglič being back and Vlasov having improved his TT, Christophe Laporte, 7th. Kind of like, is he the best? Oh, no. Cavagna's the best French time trialist. What am I talking about? But yeah, I was shocked by that. I didn't think he'd come top 10, but he seems to be in really good form, Benji. Like, what sort of rider is he? A guy that can sprint like that and do this well at the TT?
At this point, he's pretty all round, isn't he? Because I recall him doing really well at Omloop this year. He was also pretty good in Paris-Roubaix 1 year in the past.
Bessèges.
Bessèges, he had a 5th in the time trial, if I recall correctly. He won a stage there. Podium in another sprint stage, or I think it was a sprint stage at least. So yeah, he's pretty all round sprinter, cobbler, and has a time trial capability. But if the time trial extends 15 kilometers, he's very unlikely to win. Here it's 14. He's still in that margin of getting a top 10 place, but if it's longer, it's just not the case. So it's the real like sprinter slash prologue rider. But yeah, he's also not a god at prologue or time trials. I think he might have won one like in 2019 or something. I recall something like that. Yes, Pato Charente, he won a time trial. How the hell do I remember that? And a time trial in the Tour of Luxembourg. So he can definitely TT. And he also won the time trial of Bessèges in 2019. So yeah, he can TT. That's clear.
Speaking of people who can TT, where do you rate Bissiger now? Is he now in the top tier time trial? Right, say Ganna's in a tier of his own. Is he in the top tier with Van Aert, Evenepoel, Kung? Who else? Who else would be in that list? Is he in the top tier of time trialists?
Evenepoel. If he's at top level, I guess. But Bissiger is for me. I think if the time trial is under 15 kilometers, I've got him up there with the best. And that's only since the start of the season. Last year, he had a good time trial, but I just hadn't put him up there consistently. He hadn't performed consistently. He only did Big Bank really well. And that obviously, that's obviously not enough to put him with the best for me. But this year is changing that. And that's now 2 time trials in a row that he's up there with the best. So I think that we're going to see him up there quite a few times more this season, and perhaps in the coming years as well. He's going to be winning time trials more regularly from this point. But I'm not sure what he can do in the longer ones. Have no clue.
He's quite a compact rider. He's a bit like Pedersen. I think he's, according to PCS, he's, I think, 5'10", 5'9", 78 kilos. So he looks really, really powerful. Volters, I think, said that he has a very, like, one of the lowest CDAs they've ever seen. So I think he's a legit, really, really strong time trials.
What's
But we'll
CDA?
need to, pardon?
What's CDA?
It's like the aero thing. It's like how the lower the better.
Okay. Okay.
You know I'm not a physicist. It's a coefficient of drag times frontal surface area, and then you do your watt. You do like your watts by CDA. I'm now saying like Adam Blythe on commentary, and that's how fast you go on a flat TT, or affects how
Okay.
fast you go. So lower CDA, the better. And I think what, like 0.2, 0.21 is like bad or average. I can't remember. I'm not that into time trials and equipment, etc. Although Bissegger's obviously switched onto it. Low CDA according to his DS or manager, and he's wearing the POC Tempo helmet, which you'll know from the
Oh my
Danish.
fucking god.
The Benji
It's
doesn't
so
like it
ugly.
style
I hate
wise.
it.
Yeah, but the Danish pursuit team wore it last year. Then they apparently brought it back into production because people have so much demand for it. And if it works for you, it certainly works for you, given the time Biscuit set today. What other things did I have, Benji? Jungels. Bob Jungels was, I think, a bit disappointing for both of us. He lost 38 seconds to Bissiger, 32 seconds to Roglič. He's gone to Aja Citron not to go to be a cobbler. Did you think he was going for GC in this race?
He must have, because I think he mentioned that he wanted to do more in the 1 week races, and this is kind of the opportunity. It's not like their team has many different leaders here, so he's likely the one that will have to do it for that team. And with the likes of Aurelien Parepinter, who isn't really good at time trial and stuff, those aren't really the people you can go for here. So he was kind of the option for them, and I feel like he didn't really deliver what he should, but he hasn't done well in time trials for years now. So I think that the move to Koenig changed his type of rider a bit from like GC time trial attempt, because he never really got where he wanted to with what he tried there. Then he went for the Ardennes, one LBL in the early attack way. I think still on the Col d'Or finish back in the day. And then eventually also won a couple of races, I think last season or the year before. Dwarves of Vlaanderen? I don't know. 2 years ago? I don't know. Anyway, so he had that move to a different rider, that transformation, and he doesn't seem to be able to get back to Tramtral too easily. So yeah, I don't expect too much from him for this GC, and even for any GC this year. I just don't believe in it anymore.
Yeah, I don't really know what he's going to focus on.
Bing Bang
Mate,
Tour?
must be the Ardennes. I thought is what he
Yeah.
was supposed to be focusing on. I don't know. He's also a guy that I thought could be really lethal in medium mountain stages, going for breaks, but he's not doing the Giro where I think he could pick up some stages. He came sixth on GC there in 2016. Very unusual career, Bob Jungels. Other talking points, Benji, would be, I guess, do you think Roglic has actually gone back to that 2018 form, or did you expect this? Is this really the same level he's been doing the whole time? And it's just we got to factor in his TT ability is different at the end of a 3 week race, and a 1 week race, it's always going to be top shelf and always has been.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't compare 2018 to this time trial. He didn't win this one, but that doesn't mean it was necessarily worse than in 2018. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'm not an expert at comparing those numbers. But to me, it always felt like over the years, Roglic had lost a tiny bit of his time trial, or chose to lose a bit of his time trial to improve in the climbing. That completely worked out. And that's what brought him to as good of a GC rider as he is now. But it mainly plays out when there's recovery coming into play. The third week of Grand Tours and such, almost the end of the second week as well. In the Vuelta last year, it didn't really show too much because, well, the competition in the time trial wasn't up to standards compared to who is here, for example, or there also was no Ganna and such to like compare to. But I can't tell you. I genuinely can't tell you if this is different than last year. I don't know. One thing I'm certain is that he's basically almost a lock for GC for me.
Yeah, I think I'd be surprised if he didn't win from this stage. It's setting up very nicely for Jumbo Visma. He is definitely low key one of the biggest trolls in cycling. He posted before the stage
Yeah.
on Instagram. He was wearing the cursed helmet from the Planche de Belfi ITT. He posted with it being like Paris ITT time, baby. And everyone was like, "What? Why you can't be wearing that helmet, right?" Because in the Vuelta, he went back to the short, older helmet, the old laser helmet, and he won that Vuelta TT. After the tour, and he started and he's wearing the old helmet again, and then he came third. So I don't know whether the team make him. I think he's trolling, right? Or do you think the team Laser made him put that post up?
I don't know. I think that it's probably for advertisement purposes that they put the old helmet up. No, well, the new old helmet. It's difficult
The
now, is it?
cursed helmet, call
The
it
cursed
cursed
helmet,
and
the helmet of
non-cursed.
doom, and it basically just proves the theory we had. Like it is the helmet. There's no other way around it anymore. We've got considerate, consistent proof that the helmet was why he lost the Tour de France. Now,
The same day of that stage in Planche de Belfi, I had someone who came top 15 in that stage, and they messaged me and they said, it's hard to win the Tour de France with a helmet that fucked. And that's pretty much articulates my and your thoughts on it, Benji. So no surprise that he's wearing that the old helmet. I think it's more a suits thing. Like maybe the Poc Temple doesn't suit everyone. Suits Bissiger, obviously. I think the new laser helmet suits the Volante. I think suits Wout van Aert a lot. I think he wears it, and or Dumoulin might wear it. I don't know. But Roglič just suits his body position, which is obviously very different to Wout van Aert. Obviously suits the old one more based on very anecdotal evidence. But tomorrow's stage, Benji, stage 4 of Paris-Nice, from Chalon-sur-Saône to Chirouble. I can't wait for this stage. 187 Ks. I'm hoping the people that lost a lot of time today take that anger out on this stage tomorrow. Let me count. 6 Category 2 climbs, including multiple ascents of the Mont Bruy, 3.2 Ks at 7.3%. It's a lot of climbs like that. 3 Ks at 6.5%, 2.5 Ks at 8%, 4 Ks at 5.3%. And then there's a hilltop finish rather, up to Col de Bise, then up to Chirouble. 7.4 Ks at 6%. Apparently, there's two intermediate sprint placements. One is at the top of the Col de Derby's 3.3 Ks at 7.5%, about 140 Ks in. And then the last intermediate sprint is 4 Ks before the line at the end of 1,200 meters at 10.3%, up the final climb. It's a roller coaster fake news climb, apparently. It's got steep sections of 10.9%, 10.4%.
Fake news climb. I love the term.
You missed it? You missed it from
Yeah,
the
I missed it.
Vuelta? We don't get it.
I was ready with my phone with an alarm sound, and you just spoiled it already, dude.
Oh, sorry. I mean, with the UAE tour, we had to take a break from it because they just got the gradual highway climbs.
Yeah.
But if a break doesn't win, Benji, it's Roglič time. I'm telling you.
I think so as well. I think that Roglič wins this one. Could be a break. I don't think. Yeah, I can't say much about it. Yeah,
You're supposed to disagree with me. That's how this is supposed to work. It's supposed to be like Stephen A.
Greipel is
Smith
going to outsprint him at the end. His Greipel meme is going too far.
Okay, let's talk about something like the breakaway then. Who has a chance in the break? The problem is people haven't lost much time that they're going to get much of a leash, right? So
once again,
who is even Tejen?
Is he too far in GC? I don't know at this point. I have no clue where he is at in GC. His time trial was probably pretty good. Yeah, he's on like 31 seconds. Who will let him go?
Yeah, and Yoni Zagirre, perfect candidate for a breakaway. He's on like 14 seconds from Roglič or 15 seconds from Roglič, so he can't go on a breakaway either. I think our only chance of non-Jumbo Visma dominance is if Schachmann, Ineos, Astana just throw everything they can on some of the medium climbs or the steeper ones. Might be the intermediate sprint up Montpellier, and try and attack Jumbo Visma and poke some chinks in their armor,
We
and
haven't
see if
spoken
Kreuz. Yeah,
about Guillaume Martin, because this time trial was obviously pretty bad as well, because he's one of the worst GC in the world. But I think that he might be a surprise at the end of tomorrow's stage, not
good
from the
call.
breakaway, but with a bit of a
Yes,
punch on the last kilometer or something, in the same way that Roglič
definitely.
always does. He did the same on Mont d'Iguel, but too early. I think the confidence wasn't there, and he just went too early.
Too much
And
confidence, actually.
yeah, it depends, really. If you don't trust your sprint, you're going to try early. Or if you trust your sprint too much, you're also going to try early. So we have no clue if it was the confidence or not.
He also came third on the Orsia Millet stage behind the two Slovenians, Roglič and Pogačar. So he had a really nice early, like week one of the Tour de France. He showed really good punch on the, I think it was, yeah, on some of those mountaintop finishes. I think that's a great shout, Benji. But where does he attack? Does he just wait for the sprint finish and hope Roglic stuffs it up because there's no Kuss leading him out and he comes around him? Does he attack from like 800 meters and hopes Jumbo Visma don't chase because he's a minute back on GC? Does he attack earlier? Because it's not like with Vlasov in the Vuelta last year, we're like, oh, 8 minutes back, attack with 3Ks to go, and Roglic won't care. How would you play it if you were Guillaume Martin?
Honestly, I'd probably wait. I genuinely wait. I think that the only problem here is that it's so fake news that there's like 1 kilometer of 11%, another one of 11%, but it's like flat in between those 2 kilometers. So I don't know. You've got a full kilometer of a pretty high gradient to do something on with early attacks. Likely attacks will happen on those early kilometers. I
I
think
don't think
Vlasov
so.
needs to go early. It's the only option for Vlasov to do that. And I think an attack by Vlasov early might open up the race more. And then it's going to be 1v1. But if it's not a 1v1, if they go over those 10% gradient kilometers with a group of like 10, 11, 12, because they've been pacing on it, then I wouldn't even be surprised if Schachmann's still there. And we know what he did in Basque Country 2 or 3 years ago, Catalonia, on these finishes. He'd sprint away from everybody in the final kilometer, Schachmann. So if Schachmann's good enough at climbing to survive those 2 kilometers at 10%, which is not going to be super easy, but if a man can podium LBL, then he can probably do that. So wouldn't surprise me. And then I wouldn't be surprised if Schachmann is also up there on this stage. But Guillaume Martin, I don't know. It's a combination, really. Either go early or go late. It's probably going to depend on how good he is. And the problem is, if you go early, then you're very likely to get countered later on by Roglic, because he's going to be playing it relatively defensively because he knows he's got one of the better last kilometers.
The last kilometer averages, or the second to last K is 4%, and the last kilometer 6%. It's going to be so hard to attack there. The draft will be important that
Yeah.
last 3Ks. And then will the stage have been hard enough early? I can't wait to see what happens. I'm worried, looking into it closely, that it's going to be easy for Jumbo Visma to control, especially with Kreuzweig on good form. No Sepp Kuss, though, but we'll see. I can't wait to watch. Any last thoughts, Benji, before we get out of here? Do you think Paris, like, do you like the time trial third stage rather than maybe seventh or eighth stage? I quite liked early TT because I hope people will have to be aggressive afterwards.
Yeah, it forces people that are not amazing at time trials to make that initial move already. And if the situation was the other way around, you'd have perhaps riders that would be trying to get an advantage before the time trial, but not as much as it would be to try and get back to a position of competitiveness after time trial. Because, yeah, you always have that feeling if the time trial's later of, ooh, imagine if I've got a good day anyway, then I don't need to do this attack. Stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's more fun. In the tour it was the opposite though. It seemed like the final time trial made everything happen. So yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter as long as the riders are willing to ride on the stages around the time trial, really, I think.
Tomorrow we also have Healthy Aging Tour starting, as well as Tirreno Adriatico and Paris Stage 4. My body is going to be broken. Paris has got Van der Poel, Wout van Aert, Landa, Nibali, Fuglsang, Bernal. I see Sagan on the start list. Is that right, Benji? Sagan's there as well. I thought he had COVID. He was recovering from it. I think I don't know who's going for GC for Jumbo Visma, whether Foss gets a chance for Jumbo Visma, but it's a stronger start list, Pogacar as well. Stronger start list, I think, all around, just particularly GC wise than at Paris-Nice, but not as strong a sprinters field. So we'll be doing recaps of that as well as the Paris-Nice stage tomorrow, bundled up together. So I hope you join us then. We'll see you later. Ciao.